Red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light.
Well, lads and lassies, grab yourself a pint and pull up a chair because we're here for another episode of the Soul Sessions. And with me today, they are a non-profit centered organization that's promoting kindness across our great scene and wrestling worldwide. But most importantly, get ready for the bit of a hot tag because we have two members from the Hot Tag Foundation. Gentlemen, first of all, if you can introduce yourselves to our lovely esteemed viewers.
I'm Nathan. I'm a director in the company, and we're trying to promote kindness across the wrestling community. It's really important to us to reach out to that British wrestling crowd and try and do what we can for them.
And I'm Dan. I'm the founder of the Hot Tag Foundation. It was something that was very, very close to me. It one way it combined two of my hobbies, giving back and professional wrestling. I thought it was just something that was it's not out there, it's not exposed as much as it should be. And I think the two things work well together. And with British wrestling being so on fire at the moment, there's no better time to take the opportunity to take advantage of that and make sure we can do something good out of it. So Hot Tag Foundation is looking to be on a roll.
Well, that's lovely to see, lads. I cannot wait to get into more of it. But obviously with this show, we have a little saying, every guest has a story and every story has a beginning. So I want to know first, Nathan, how did your story begin first as a wrestling fan, my friend?
For me, it was the Attitude Era. So when I was a young kid, obviously it was huge. Everyone talked about it. Everyone was talking about the war between WCW and WWF as it was then. There was sort of icons for me were Steve Austin and The Rock, and their sort of I don't know, plain talking, I should say, because it wasn't really clean. But plain talking, no nonsense way of talking really appealed to me, and cutting their promos and things, it really drew me in. So from a young boy perspective, I was sort of looking at these people as sort of like icons, if you know what I mean, and that really drew me in. The storytelling, when it drew to Taker and Kane and Kane's debut and Paul Bearer being there, those stories were really what drew me into wrestling, and that sort of on and off between then and now has really sort of intertwined through my life, and it brought me to friends like Dan. So it's a really great way of meeting people, being part of a community that wants to be with each other. In a sense, it's quite a social hobby, if you like, which is an aspect that really will tie in with what we're trying to achieve. So I think that's really where I'm at. And obviously nowadays in this modern era with Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, it's fantastic to still see that there's some great quality content coming out of what is now the Victor WWE.
100%.
Very true indeed, my friend. And also, you do make great best friends within wrestling. Maybe not so if you ask Orange Cassidy. I don't think he would agree with that right now with what's going on.
100%, no.
So we'll keep Mr. Cassidy. Fair play indeed. Now, Dan, is your story as how you begin very similar, or is there any difference to your story?
Well, my story started a bit later. My story started in 2008, when characters like Jeff Hardy, Triple H, John Cena were hot. My introduction to wrestling was, I remember quite vividly, I was in my school playground, and some kid brought in slam attacks, and they brought the cards in. And I just remember seeing the John Cena 101 slam attacks, and I thought, that sounds good. I'll get into that. That sounds really good. So I went home, rushed home, spoke to my dad, said, you need to get me this Royal Rumble thing I'm hearing so much about. And I watched Royal Rumble 2008 on that weekend, and it just blew my mind. The pageantry, the flair, Ric Flair was on the card actually, but
no pun intended.
No pun intended. But and then obviously the whole thing of the Rumble and just wanting to be part of that community was so appealing to me. For someone who was quite the outcast when they were younger. And it was looked at as like an alternate reality where I can go and look at these larger than life real superheroes and just see how they work. So yeah,
I think the Rumble still holds up as the one pay-per-view that anyone can watch as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
It's something that draws absolutely everyone.
100%. And as my wife says, she calls it like it's like a buffet of wrestlers.
Oh yeah,
and it's yeah. But yeah, it's like honestly starting with I could not ask for a better start because being such an outcast as a kid and then being introduced to like Jeff Hardy and that kind of stuff, I was really drawn to the character and drawn to who he was as a person, barring the things you found out later that you didn't know. but as an on-screen representative and watching that year, just watching him from the Rumble to winning the WWE title at Armageddon was just it was massive for me. So yeah, that's how I got into wrestling.
Absolutely, it just shows
yeah. Probably not Jeff's coping mechanism.
No, it's probably not very healthy, but nonetheless,
it does shows with wrestling. It has that strong grip on people from a young age of the superhero aspect, and then we can take that into our modern day lives. But obviously, before we continue there, obviously Nathan, you mentioned obviously being a fan of the Attitude Era, that Monday Night War aspect of WCW, WWF at the time, and that era is being rejuvenated and revisited through the Who Killed WCW series brought by the Dark Side of the Ring guys. And obviously people will say it was Bischoff, it was Hogan, it was Turner, it was, RoboCop coming back and just trying to terrorize things. I wonder from yourself, Nathan, who do you think killed WCW?
Goldberg.
No, it wasn't Bill. No, it was the blank checks. That's what killed WCW. It was the blank checks. Ted's pockets were big, but they weren't that big. I'd watched a few documentaries around it after the fact, and Bischoff was giving Hogan blank checks and saying, "Take what you need." You know what I mean? And I think to a certain extent, giving creative control to the talent is never a good idea. And it was a recipe for disaster really in WCW's case. And I think Vince really capitalized on that and found, he took on youthful talent and people who he wanted to be up and coming stars, so that there was longevity in it. Whereas WCW tended to hold on to established talent, and they thought that would have longevity because they were already established names, sort of like Savage and Hogan and Flair and Dusty and lots and lots of big names. And I mean, they did have young talent as well in the sense that, I say young talent. DDP was there as well, but he was the oldest rookie, if you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. Sting, for example.
They had a lot of cruiserweights at that point. At the end, obviously Benoit, Mysterio, Guerrero, Malenko, Regal.
I think a lot of what they made mistakes with is they listened to the older talent who had the pre-agenda. That they wanted to stay on the top forever. And so what happened was the talent that was coming through was actually being held down. And so people like Austin went to ECW first and then to WWE. But, Austin he became the biggest star of WWE in that era. I mean, you can argue that point, but I don't think anyone would. You had Jericho. He started in WCW. Mysterio, he started in WCW. Guerrero, as you've already mentioned. Do you know what I mean? There's so much talent from around that era that moved across. And I know there was some obviously that went the other way as well, but it was talent that weren't really, other than Brett, weren't really box office, I don't think, if you know what I mean, in the sense that like Luger never wanted to be the guy, which is why he left WWE in the first place. Because he couldn't handle the workload, and I think people Brett was probably not a very good example in that sense, because he, when he went to WCW, he was never given that run, but that was part of that was his own fault, because they wanted him to be the guy that Hogan was. They wanted him to be with the outsiders and be the guy that fronted the NWO, but he didn't want to do it because he didn't think it was right for talent to have creative control.
So who killed WCW though?
So I suppose, like I said, I don't think there's a set person. I think getting rid of Bischoff when they did and bringing Russo in was a massive mistake. The blank checks were a massive mistake. I think ultimately it was a culmination of lots of different things that killed WCW, and they diluted talent. You know, they brought in far too many people. They should have capitalized on what they had, worked with the people that they had, and it probably would have done a lot better. But instead, they kept chucking big sums of money at wrestlers who wanted to be mid card.
Sounds like AEW.
There's no parallels, and I think it drew bigger parallels when Cody was there, because he wanted to sort of almost rejuvenate like Bash at the Beach and things like that was from WCW in memory of his father. So I think that had Cody stayed there, that probably would have been diluted to a point where AEW would have been in the same situation.
I mean, just with wrestling, you never know what's around the corner. 1 minute could be some nice promotion things on, and then it's forbidden doors everywhere. Everyone's walking through everything. You think you're at the carousel at the airport. It's like a terminal or something like that. You think, what's going on here? But obviously, you know, Dan, you mentioned obviously getting in around 2008 era, obviously through the Royal Rumble. I want to know, how does it amaze you to, obviously, with the current era we're in wrestling right now, it seems like wrestling is more popular than ever, you know, even more than the Attitude Era, some people would say, with how many companies are up and running, how many big tours are going on. I want to know, do you think that the era we're in right now, when maybe 10 years down the line, will be remembered more than the Attitude Era?
Yes. I think you'll hate me for saying it, but yes, I think we are in the most popular era that WWE's ever been in. I think the numbers show it. I think the talent that we have shows it. Obviously, it's a different circumstance. They've got different characters. It's different. But I think the more realism that they've brought into WWE, the better. So it's like the introduction of having people's real names as talent is massive as well. So it sells merchandise to them. It's much better for them. Like, Cody's absolutely over at the moment, like incredibly over at the moment. They've got stars like Roman Reigns who are pushing through, and then you can still get the nostalgia of looking back to the Attitude Era. It's hard to differentiate because the Attitude Era has like a domino effect. If it wasn't for the Attitude Era, then you arguably you wouldn't have this era that we're in now, because you know, the process of The Rock coming back into it, and then, you know, all the Renaissance era, should we call it. And I think it's just, to answer your question, yes, I think this is the best era that we're living in right now. And I think people need to understand how global professional wrestling is right now. And even with like British wrestling, you look at how NXT UK, you know, people see it as it damaged it quite heavily, but look how we've recovered from it. And there's wrestling every weekend and 1,000 different promotions across the UK. And then that spreads to AEW, New Japan, TNA, WWE, and you think you never got to a stage where there's wrestling on every single night of the week, and the content's just unlimited of where it is. So
the reach is certainly better now.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier to reach now than it was 20, 30 years ago. But you know, I can't knock it. I still get goosebumps watching it. Like, you look at Cody and Roman at WrestleMania 40 and this, like, all that sequence, and just gives you goosebumps. And
it's a layered question, isn't it?
It is a layered
I think it's like asking what's better, the castle or the foundations it was built on. Do you know what I mean? And I think you can't have one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it wasn't for the Monday Night Wars, and I think to a certain extent there's a romanticism around that. You know, and I fall prey to that all the time. You know, it's nostalgic for me, because in that time we didn't have, well, the internet was about, but nobody had it. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't something that was in everyone's house. It was like, you know, there's a computer at school. There's a computer in the library if you're lucky. Do you know what I mean?
Internet cafes, remember that?
I remember internet cafes, and they were still prevalent into the early noughties. It's not something that, like, now, where you can literally stream what you want. You can go on YouTube and find what you want. In them days, it was, you were waiting for the next bit of the puzzle, and I think there was that created a hype that they can never mirror. So even though nowadays, yes, okay, they're making more money than they've ever made. Well, I mean, you're talking about the price of a house in 1992. It is 32,000. It's now 230,000. Do you know what I mean? It's not. There's no parallel to put to it. It's non-surmountable. So money is irrelevant. It's good that they're making more money now, but they've got no competition. And I think that competition element is what drove the Attitude Era to the heights that it went to.
But I think also is that I think the Attitude Era gets a good name because of certain moments in it, and I think they say WWE now and AEW now have great content throughout the whole of Monday Night Raw, the whole of SmackDown. Where you look at like Attitude Era from my perspective, and you see like you had like Doink the Clown, and you had the Brooklyn Brawler, and these gimmick characters. But now they've got.
I would argue that was before the Attitude Era.
That's what
cemented
it.
That was the new generation. That was Brett and HBK. It was their era for me. That Doink and but 93 is before the Attitude Era for me.
Yeah, but it was going into it. They were still there. They were still part of the Monday Night Raw.
Sure, there had to be some mid card, but I mean, like I think the argument that you could make today is there isn't as much mid card now as there was in the 90s, and that's fine. But I would say that the talent of the 90s was box office. Like there are lots of great talent now, and you can there are box office talent as well. Don't get me wrong, Cody, Roman, box office, yeah. But in them days, there was a lot more box office talent, and there was a lot more mid card. Do you know what I mean? So it's to me, I mean that's opinion based, but
yeah, I think it's all opinion based.
But I think it's one of those where it's hard to draw parallels to the two things because they're both very different in the circumstance, in their environment, the whole eras were different. So trying to draw a comparison between two things that are not really the same, it has the same draw, it has the same foundation, it has the same base.
You started something now, Ben. This is you've triggered something in both. Yeah.
But ultimately,
I may be dressed fancy in a suit here, but this is no a criminal proceeding. We will get on with the fun. You're all good on that part, but I think that is very true what you say as well. Obviously, two different eras. Back in the 90s, it was very AOL dial-up and TV sets around, and everyone was watching TV. Now we've got streaming and informations like that at your fingertips, which is truly phenomenal to have as well. But obviously, something you mentioned as well, wrestling being global now as well. And one part about being global is you can just see it outside your very home as well. We get stuff like WWE and TNA back in the day, but we've now got wrestling outside our very windows with our great British scene as well. I want to know from yourself, lads, when did you come first into knowledge with the great British wrestling scene? I want to start with you, Dan.
My first show was I think it might have been New Generation Wrestling back in 2009. I think that was my first introduction to British wrestling, but I never followed from it because I was very much like I was a kid. I wanted to be in WWE shows. I wanted to be at Raw. I wanted to be at SmackDown. I didn't want to see all these these up and comers who were bin men on the weekends and or weekdays, but I didn't know as much back then as what I wanted to understand. Like looking back on it, there was stars like Styx who was wrestling there. There was Mason Ryan who went to WWE who was wrestling there, and you just think people have got to start somewhere, and we should be there to help these people get to that level. And then going 15 years later, when I start actually going to British wrestling events, and I started I had my stag do at TNT in February, watching Extreme Wrestling. That was interesting, wasn't it?
It was brilliant. Lots of light tubes.
Yeah, lots of light tubes, glass blood, the whole whack, and it was like even we took one of my other best friends, and she came and she was like, I don't like wrestling. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch all this gory stuff, and she loved it. She was getting involved, and it's one of those glass shattering moments where someone can look at something and say, and stick to the stereotype if it's all fake and it's all blah blah blah, and then you bring them to a show and you think it's a performance, it's the flair of it all, the pageantry, the everything that just gets you drawn in, that you just want to come back and watch again and again and again. And I think it's just even those moments, and to be able to do that with British wrestling as well as American wrestling is just next level. I remember going to the Ice Arena to watch in Hull to watch it was like American wrestling, and it was like The Undertaker, but it wasn't The Undertaker, and Kane, it wasn't Kane, and I was like, wow. Yeah, but
The Undertaker.
Yeah, some rubbish like that, but it was but now it's like I've starting the Hot Tag Foundation. I was like, oh, I'll make sure I'll reach out to this promotion, and I was there for hours going, there's another one there, there's another one there, there's another one there. there's 6 in my local area.
It's a domino, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. So I was like, unbelievable. I still find them today. I still find new promotions today, and I think, how can we reach out to these people and get involved in what they're doing, and support what they're doing? And I think it must be such a competitive market, because there is there's unlimited wrestlers around the UK, but the top talent, when you're looking at like Rob Drake, Lana Austin, Charles Crowley, Luke Jacobs, like, they've got to be booked every weekend. Where they're being booked this weekend? Like, it's
very,
hard to find.
very true.
Yeah,
It's funny when you mention of like, wrestling scenes outside and like you're very street. It's kind of like when a Scotsman's on holiday and a pint glass drops, you cheer and it's like, oh wow, we're surrounded. There's a lot of us here. Keeping up the traditions alive abroad. I love to see that. And what about yourself, Nathan? Obviously, for you exploring and seeing the British wrestling scene, were you also quite surprised about many promotions were going on outside your very window?
There's tons. You can't. It would be impossible to name them all. I mean, NGW is one of the first British ones I went to as well. El Ligero and people like that were around at that time. I used to watch a program as well on local TV called British Wrestling Weekly. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it was like
Sound Challenge.
I think it was on That's TV. Or what has become That's TV. It used to be like I think they called it Estuary originally or something like that. It was like a really
like a public,
like
channel.
It's really like public, like really sort of like colloquial channel.
I remember British Wrestling Weekly. I remember like BWR being on there. And
NGW. So they basically went up and down the country. It was mostly in the northwest, so like Blackpool and places like that, where you saw most of the talent. Megastar, I think was one of Megaslam and Superstar Wrestling, and there was quite a lot of different, sort of. It was almost like Carney style wrestling. Do you know what I mean? It probably quite territorial if you wanted to draw a comparison to the American market, in the sense that this company went round and basically filmed or got film from these wrestling promotions and made a show reel of all this different British wrestling every single week. You could probably even find it on YouTube. I'm sure someone will have uploaded it to there. But that was sort of, again, my early sort of British wrestling sort of fix, if you like. And I thought, well, it's here, so I need to go and find somewhere I can go and watch it, live. And so I took my partner and we went and watched NGW, and so that was quite a good experience. I thought when we turned up, we felt a little bit out of place because there was so many kids around.
Yeah.
So it was like, should we have booked this or not, sort of thing. But when we got in there, there was like groups of lads and things that were all chanting, and we got really involved because of that. So there was already a culture of people being there who knew each other and sort of knew what to chant for people, because it was like, oh, that person's a heel, that person's a face, and so you could follow the crowd as well, which really made you sort of integrate into that community. The
proper house show vibe, where you've got the heel and you've got the face, and that's who you cheer for.
Oh,
that's how you boo, yeah.
It's very, very kayfabe.
Very, very good.
Very connective as well, and I love that with the British wrestling scene. It is that very open. You could see wrestler on one show where it's a death match, and then another show it's a family-friendly show, and then another where it's a technical masterpiece. Such diversity within the British wrestling scene as well.
Yeah.
Also, you guys mentioned TNT Extreme there, and I've had the current world champion Tate Mayfair's on the show in the past, and Tate's an exceptional grind in himself. But obviously, there's some other great heroes within TNT. One that comes to my mind is Emerson Jane. She's absolutely bonkers with the kind of stuff she'll do, like syringes and darts and all that. And you think that's something nuttery, but something.
Yeah, we saw her. She was at the DOA, wasn't she? But I've just watched her. I watched the highlights of her against Drew Parker, and I thought, oh my god, Jesus Christ! But she's an immense talent, absolutely amazing talent. Yeah, really good. She won it, didn't she?
Yeah, she took a beating though.
Yeah, she won the DOA.
She really did take a beating.
Yeah.
The show is absolutely crazy and insanity. But obviously, going back to Tate, who currently holds the TNT World Championship, I want to know from yourself, Dan, I want to know yourself, Nathan, if you could book Tate Mayfair's in a championship match with somebody from the UK scene and somebody from GCW, because GCW on crossover shows with TNT in the past, I want to know who would you pick for Tate?
That's a good question.
I know I'd say from GCW.
Mark Cardona.
It has to be.
And I think Nathan Cruz as well. I think Nathan Cruz from the British scene. I think he is an absolute talent, and I know he's
second to none.
He's knocking on a little bit now, but he is certainly an absolute talent. He's professional. He's undeniable. Honestly, he looks professional in the sense that he's a polished talent as well. Often, there's a little bit of rough and ready around the edges in the British scene, which I personally like. But I think Nathan Cruz could easily be somewhere like NXT or a promotion. What's the word? A brand that sort of helps people get to the next stage. Do you know what I mean? He certainly could be in that bracket. I feel.
I know Nathan Cruz has kind of backed away from that. He's got his own gym now where he's trained like Miles Kamen, Scotty Rourke. Like
I saw him fight last year. It was brilliant as well. He was sort of like a surprise guest on the card sort of thing. I've forgotten the name of the. What's her name? It's on the tip of my tongue as well. There's a female talent from Liverpool.
Lizzie Evo.
Lizzie Evo, yeah. She is incredible as well. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. If you ever get a chance to see her, I don't know if you probably have seen her, but if you get a chance to see her, especially live, she is an outstanding female talent.
Do you know what I love about Lizzie Evo is that her adaptability to where she is, because she'll come and do a kid's show, but when you see her in like an 18+ show, Jesus Christ. It's it's interesting character. Interesting, but yeah, Nathan Cruz is a good shout though, and Matt Cardona. But Matt Cardona's got to always be my shout. Or Danhausen, if you want to class Danhausen as GCW talent.
Oh, Danhausen, that would be something. But of course, you mentioned the Deathmatch King, the current GCW general manager, the Michael Jordan of wrestler figure collecting, Matt Cardona himself. There's no Matt Cardona slander on this show. We all love Matt Cardona. Praise be the king of death matches. But obviously, Matt, somebody who left WWE, obviously being released and reinventing himself, absolutely phenomenal with the Deathmatch King character, Indie God character, and did like a wrestling musical as well. Just fully unique individual.
Indie Faker as well.
Ah, bingo, indeed.
That's class.
Oh, beautifully. Love to see it. I wonder if yourself, lads, with Matt Cardona, do you think Matt Cardona could be a template like 10 years down the line of what British wrestlers and wrestlers worldwide should study when wanting to become a wrestler, with how varied opportunities he's become?
100%. I think what's fortunate for Matt Cardona, unfortunate, fortunate, depending on how you look at it. He had it all. And then he was presented with that situation where he lost it all. And I think having that can really turn a career around, like what happened with Drew McIntyre as well. And even like Jinder Mahal, if you want to put him in that category as well, came WWE champion after he was released, worked hard to, build himself to be that character, get that presentation as a champion. Fair enough, they had a market in India at that point, which they were trying to sell, but he... I love Jinder Mahal. I loved him as a WWE champion. People say odd, but I think it was great.
They just never packaged him right. He just needed that.
I resent that actually because his entrance was like that of a champion. His physique was that of a champion. His dress was that of a champion. And I think he just didn't have the right support at the right time. But he was one of my favorite WWE champions to watch, because even so, you didn't know when he was going to lose. You just expected him to lose every time. Like, he's against Shinsuke Nakamura, he's going to lose. He's against whoever, he's going to lose. And then you think, oh my God. And then obviously he had the live event in the UK where he lost it to AJ. I'm going off on the tangent here anyway about Jinder Mahal, but please, we will not hinder the Jinder on this chat.
There is nothing wrong with that.
No. I forgot the question now because I was anyway. Going back to being like the template or the catalyst for that kind of thing. Yeah, 100%. I think he's currently running seminars and stuff up and down the US, going back from his injury and stuff like that. I think what better person to learn from than someone who's had it all, who had it for 10 years, where he was left in a situation where he didn't feel like he was right to be there, and then came out of it and just redeveloped himself. And
Game was the king of the indie, didn't he?
He used it as an advantage instead of seeing it as a disadvantage. So I think he was one of the best people to do that, actually. So
There isn't much you can elaborate on.
Absolutely.
I think that encapsulates it.
Yeah, absolutely, guys, indeed as well. Now, obviously, well, our British wrestling scene, we do get great opportunities as well when big companies come over. We've obviously got, at the moment we're recording, WWE Clash of the Castles very, very soon. Your beauty. We also have AEW All In returning for Wembley later down the line in the year. TNA did their tour last year when they were on the Impact banner. And that's just really amazing to see because obviously they could pick out stars within our very scene to get that elevation to the next level of professional wrestling. I know from you guys as well as British fans, do you know when a big event's coming over from like international shows and international companies, what does that make you feel like? A sense of pride, a sense of acknowledgement as UK wrestling fans?
I would say the thing that stuck in my mind was I watched a documentary and it had Triple H in it, and it was at the time where he had the handlebar mustache. I can't remember the exact sort of date, but it was around that time. And he said in an interview, they were talking about the best SummerSlams, and he said that WWE would never ever bring a pay-per-view to England again because the ratings were so bad for that SummerSlam. And so that stuck in my mind for so long, and so that when Clash came, it was I have to go. I have to go because if I don't go, they're never coming back. And so it was totally subliminal, but to me it was already ingrained in my brain. I'm going, whether I can afford it or not. I'm going. I have to go.
Either that, or it's like you want to be there because you want them to come back. So the more people you get there,
well, that's the point.
The more chance they're going to come back, and it was such a great atmosphere. Like,
it was
everywhere.
Electric.
Everywhere was just full of wrestling fans. Like I came back and I couldn't speak because I was wooing that much across Cardiff.
100%.
So it was like incredible.
No, I was just going to say it really all I can sort of add really to that in that sense is it sort of almost quantified that I had to be there, and because I thought it's my responsibility as a wrestling fan to make it now so that the figures are so good now that when it comes to the next time, I mean, I didn't realize we were going to do Money in the Bank, right after it, but I mean, it's to in my mind, I was thinking the next pay-per-view will be for another generation of wrestling fan. I have to be the one to go and do it. Because if I don't do it, then the next generation are going to have to wait another 30 years for another pay-per-view to come to England, and that's just not acceptable. I know it was in Wales, and you can pull me on that if you like, but the UK, sorry. So it felt like it was almost like a mission statement. If you want us to come again, you have to turn up, you have to attend, and so almost instantly I messaged our friend group as such. So that includes Dan. When are we going?
Obviously we know when we're going. But like going back to what you're saying as well, Nath. I'll always have a little bit of, I don't want to say the word resentment against my wife because it pains me that she's been a wrestling fan for 3 years and that she's already been to AEW's All In at Wembley.
First time.
Money in the Bank. And I was like,
first
time. I think, imagine your first event going to is Money in the Bank and SmackDown.
First, yeah.
And I thought, I had to wait 15 years for this, and you get to do it in your second year of watching watching professional wrestling. And I was like,
I think there's another layer to that as well. Yeah. I think it's quite delicious, really, in the sense that you know, as you unravel that, you sort of, while you sort of feel a little bit sort of jealous of that ability to be able to go and do it, it ties in quite nicely to the foundation, really, because in the sense that where we can, if we can open doors for people to get connected, if we can open doors for people to see their first show, or if we can help get people to understand that this community is wider. And obviously when we were kids, I mean, I certainly didn't have the money, or my family didn't have the money for me to go to shows, or I've never been to America, so I've never been to a WWE show in America. So I've only ever done the UK. So I think it would be nice for us to be able to at least open the door to the possibility, if that makes sense. Even if we can't physically go, right, we're going to send you there, it will be nice to open that door. And I think with I don't know if we can mention other people's brands, but with Tidal, with a giveaway, that does that to a certain extent, in the sense that it opens the door for someone or a family or someone who might not be able to afford to let their child or their kids go to a wrestling show, but they've always wanted to go. This opportunity really opens that door for them. And what I think is great is we get a sense of pride from being able to accommodate that. There's nothing else really in it for us other than we just want to open that door and help the next generation of fan across that threshold into this community.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. That's one of our main objectives, is introducing young people to this alternate reality where you can go and just be who you want to be.
Escapism, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's a very inclusive community when you really get into it and get stuck into it. Like when you've got stars like Effie on the scene, and you think 20 years ago a character like Effie would have been a Goldust level character, but he's such a phenomenal talent that it doesn't matter what he wears or how he dresses or his actions. You just want to watch him because he's a great wrestler and he's a great performer. So
I'm just going to put a caveat in there as well. Goldust and Roddy Piper was a brilliant WrestleMania match. So
even with the OJ Bronco footage.
Oh dear. Anyway. That's enough for you, Nathan.
I've done him in. Breathe, man.
He actually ran him over in the car,
Good.
He goes, you better run me over with that car, make it look good.
Anything for the business.
Yeah.
Obviously, lads, we've touched upon it briefly, but obviously let's get into it now. Obviously, Hot Tag Foundation. Dan, I know you're obviously the owner, and Nathan, you're obviously affiliated with the organization as well. I know there's 4 other members as well that I believe are part of your. So obviously, I want to get into the creation of the foundation, your other team members, and as well, I know you have an open press release on your Instagram page as well about your messages as well. So if we just dive into that whole information for our viewers and fully understand what Hot Tag Foundation is all about.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Is it an open question? You want me to go ahead? Yeah.
Yeah, for you, my friend. Just explain. Tell us more about the foundation.
So it started a couple of years ago. I was in a similar project where we was donating a lot of we donated quite a lot of shoe boxes worth of WWE and independent wrestling merchandise, and we donate them to underprivileged children around the country and through affiliation with charities. And that was quite local. It was on a small scale, and we did such an incredible donation drive where we had like 60 to 65 boxes that we distributed inside the ropes, did an interview on us, and it was the magnitude of it could have been absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately, creative differences pushed me apart, and then from that, I finished my degree. I got married, and I'd done all this in between, and now it's time to restart something that was so dear to my heart at the time. So when I was considering doing it again, it took a lot of thought, a lot of process, because I had to get the the logos, the graphics, everything had to be perfect before I wanted to go and release it. And I was dead set sure that I wanted to create a strong foundation before I'd release what I wanted to do. Which took a lot really. It was quite a burnout period because there's so many people out there that you need to speak to, and you need to make sure that people understand that we are just doing something good, and there's no monetary involvement. We don't make money from it. We don't take money. We don't do anything that we feel is unethical as a team. It's strictly donation only of toys and merchandise and notebooks, anything that you can associate with that will benefit a young person. We will take it and we'll box it and give it away. Like I say, we don't fund merchandise. We don't do anything like that. We just do it because we want to do something good and ignite that fire that we had as young people and kids who are going to our first wrestling show and being introduced to it. We want to be the driving force that gets more people in attendance to shows across the UK. It's continuously making it on a national scale of you know, British wrestling is around there and it's on your doorstep, and we're just trying to present positive role models to people who may not have access to them. So like I was big on Jeff Hardy when I was younger, but he was about hundreds of miles away. But when I can look now, when you think of the talent that we have in the UK, such as like a Nathan Cruz, like a Tate Mayfair, a Luke Jacobs, you know, Liam Slater, even so from Pursuit Pro Wrestling, like there's people out there who are huge and are massive advocates for doing something good. And you think, I want to be a part of that, and I want to make sure that we are the support network in between connecting promotions across the UK. So it started out really, it was a long process to start out. It took about a month of constant work to get all sorted, get the right team together, make sure we're all dressed to the nines and we're all, you know, equipped to what we need. And I think June 1st was like the perfect time to really get into it, because it gives us 6 months to Christmas, and all of our efforts now go towards Christmas. So, and thankfully we have had the utmost respect and accommodation shown to us and hospitality from different promotions and promoters across the UK, which made our reach within the first month from where we are in East Yorkshire to Scotland, to Wales, to London, to Merseyside, to anywhere that you are, we are getting there. Blackpool as such as well, because they've got such a hot independent scene of Mega Slam and even Rascals Pro Wrestling Academy in Blackpool. Like there's so many out there, and people have just wanted to meet us and wanted to get involved. So and having people reach out to us is just, you know, unbelievable. So hopefully we can keep going and it keeps, you know, the momentum keeps going up until Christmas and then continues after that.
Well, you know, that's great to see, lads, honestly, as well. And obviously, Nathan, as well, coming a part of this team as well, I want to know what it means for you, my friend, to be involved with such a great foundation like this.
I think the top and bottom of it is trying to do the right thing, trying to show a bit of kindness. Sometimes people carry a lot of baggage. Sometimes people don't have an outlet, somewhere to go, or someone to speak to, even, you know. And I think for me, this sort of encapsulated an opportunity with a group of people who all are similar minded. You know, we all wanted to spread a little bit of kindness and a little bit of respect and open a few doors for people. And I think the sort of the overriding thing is that we try and do that to the best of our abilities, and do it for a community of people who, you know, the wider that community is, the better, because that influence in the wrestling community of good spirits and inclusion and of acceptance, you know, because a lot of people, you know, people get bullied and things, and people aren't find it difficult to find acceptance in places. And I think a lot of what we hope to offer, whether it be now down the road or, you know, or whenever, is somewhere where you know, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you do, everyone's accepted, you know. And it's you know, just without being too cliche, we're there with a hot tag to be reached out to. And I think that, you know, when you want to tap in, we're here. We'll bail you out.
100%. And I think it's worth it. I think it needs to be highlighted, the critical situation that we were in forming the team that we have. It was very cutthroat. It was very like, if you're not going to give it 100%, then we can't. You know, come back when you do. That was our whole mindset towards it. So
from a team perspective, yes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because at the end of the day, people are entrusting us. Like we have no legal representation. We're not a CIC yet. We're not a charity yet, but we are. You know, we're starting to build up that position where we can speak to people, and then people actually want to actively get to us, and then people are giving us good recommendations to other promotions, and they're reaching out because of it. And like it was quite a cutthroat thing where we're like, if you don't want to be involved, or you can't give your time, then we're gonna try again next time, because we need to make sure that people can trust us with their business, and their livelihood. Like a lot of people's promotions are their livelihood. That's how they make money. And if anything was to go down, we have a lot to lose as well in the respect, because we're all we all have our own lives to live. We all have solid careers. We're all it's me and my wife involved. You've got a family at home. Like we just wanted to have to form the right team, and then establishing a further reach. Like when we got to Ross on board from Scotland, from Glasgow, he did runs, like raise money for the Samaritans and doing a half marathon and stuff like that, and like he's a big advocate on Samaritans and suicide prevention and all that kind of stuff. So he was huge for us, because he's such a motivating kind of person to be around. He's such a lovely guy to be around. He only wants to do the best for other people. He's aspiring to be a pro wrestler, Iron Girders gym, and he's just even like Dalton was a young man that we spoke to a couple of years ago. We met a couple of years ago. He sold all of his wrestling toys to raise money for a local hospital in Blackpool. And we knew we wanted him on board, because he's just a constant reminder of these young people that want to do good out there, and having him as an ambassador for what we're trying to do is just absolutely huge.
I was going to say, he's a wonderful ambassador, really, isn't he? For what we're trying to do, the brand, and for that bit of selflessness.
100%. And we don't want to. We don't want to hurt Dalton at any point. His family, they've always been very nice to us, very accommodating. Like we've met them. We met Edge together in Cardiff. Like it's we did a Zoom call with Edge at one point, with me, my wife Laura, Dalton, his mum, and Edge spoke to us via Zoom. God knows, that was about 4 years ago now. But we got him to meet his idol, and I think he's very much like, I want to give back to the people who give me something. And it's crazy, because if I met Edge when I was 10, I would have flipped out. I would have screamed, honestly. But even though it was a bit of a prick back in 2008, but it was still, it was a huge moment for me.
Mate, him and later.
yeah. But, for my time, definitely. Yeah. But yeah, it was.
It's all cool.
But yeah, I just want to make sure it's highlighted out there that people understand that we are a strong team, and we are all transparent and open people that we'll speak to you. We'll come up and speak to you. We'll tell you all about our aims, our objectives, and we are just a group of wrestling fans who want to get more people into wrestling. That's
just open the door.
Let's open the door. Yeah,
100%.
Do we have to change our slogan? Let's change
We're opening that forbidden door, just help get as many people in, and I think that's very wholesome to see as well. With wrestling, you can get sometimes with the old IWC of elitism and gatekeeping and trying to make sure it's their community. We don't want to have that open platform for people, but then when we get great people like yourselves and wrestlers that use their platform and their individual personas as a gateway for people to understand that there are people like them, and feeling found, and just understanding that there is something there for you and you can be accepted, is truly wholesome to see, guys, honestly. And I really appreciate what you guys are doing, not only just for our great scene, which needs that, but for general humanity that really needs that right now. And obviously with the foundation, you guys are just obviously starting up and everything, but things are going really well for you. I like to see from your Instagram as well, so many things coming about and everything, and posts. I want to know as well, by obviously the end of December, we are halfway through the year, even though that scares me to my core. Where's the time going? I want to know, if you could pick 3 goals, obviously, for the foundation to achieve by the end of the year, what would they be for you guys, and why? First, yourself, Nathan.
For me, so literally just to open doors for people. That's the first one. To make sure that when it come Christmas time, anyone who is without gets, and that we show that ethos of kindness. We ultimately, if we don't achieve where we want to achieve, then if people can understand that all we're trying to offer is the doorway to a community, friendliness, and kindness, then we've achieved. And that might be what might be seen as a superficial level, but realistically, we're only a very small concern at the moment, and whatever we can influence in year one is going to be the impetus for the rest of its life. So
100%.
you know, for right now, if we, the overriding thing for me is if we can offer a bit of kindness, a bit of support, and open a door, who knows what we can achieve in the future.
Absolutely, truly. And for yourself, Dan, as well, are they the same ideals for yourself, or is there maybe some other goals you would love to achieve for the foundation by the end of the year?
Very much so. I think I definitely resonate with what Nathan just said. I think that sums up quite cleanly. It's hard to define where objectives and stuff when we're not financially based. But in terms of the real objectives that we are looking at, it would be a certain number of boxes. Like if we can pull together 200 boxes by Christmas, then that's huge for us. And we want to ensure that they go back to the communities that have given us the most. So if we get 50 boxes worth of donation from Wales, we're not going to give them to Scotland because it doesn't help Wales. It's there's a lot of logistics that we're still working out. Yeah, but we've got amazing partners in Real Wrestling who's offered up storage space for us and a great platform for advocating our cause. So just continuing our domino effect of people wanting to get on board and speaking with people, but we want to get out to meet people now as well. With Zoom people, with call people, we want to get to shows. We want to get out there, and our fair show is NGW.
It's that hand to hand, isn't it? It sounds so corny, doesn't it? When you say, it's having that interaction, that actual tag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say, hi, it's, we're the people you've been talking to. We're actually real people. We want to do the right thing. We want to do good things for the community.
100%. So by Christmas, it's Christmas this year is really going to determine where we see ourselves in 2025. Respectively, if let's say we have an amazing Christmas donation drive, we've got tons of support behind us, then we can look at becoming a CIC in the new year, providing more governance to the cause, proactively getting out there, receiving funding, that kind of stuff, because we are a self-funded organisation right now where we pay for all of our donations, our clothes, our business cards, leaflets, posters, everything. It comes out of our own pocket because we're just trying to get exposure at the minute. But if by Christmas, and we've done extremely good job, people are actually wanting to get involved, then we can look at becoming a CIC, gain that funding, then we can actively, we'll get our DBS checks in, we'll get all of our safeguarding certificates, and then we can start getting young people to wrestling shows, as well as, being that, I don't know how to put it, being that supply network of they come to us, we give them to young people, we market it for young people to give free tickets to get them to shows, but we can, subsidize that to also help the promotions at the same time. So we're not trying to put anyone out of pocket. We can ask for donations. We can ask for free tickets to give away to introduce people to young people to wrestling. But we don't want the industry to suffer just because we're trying to do something good. We want to make sure that if someone comes to a show because it's on our back and we've got them tickets for those families to come to the show, we want them as recurring customers and recurring people into the scene. So it's like I say, it's still early days. We've not been established, or we've been established for 12 days, but
it doesn't seem long when you say that.
But the collaborations are endless of what we can do, and we are just waiting for more people to reach out.
What I'll say is, I think baby steps is really important. We can verbal diarrhea all the things that we want to achieve, but I think ultimately getting to goal 1, then to 2, then to 3, it has to be incremental steps, because if we go, right, we're going to do everything next year, all that's going to happen is we're going to fall on our face because we'll get burnt out. We'll instead of hitting the ground running, we'll just be like hitting a treadmill at full speed, and that isn't going to be conducive to anyone.
No.
So baby steps is really important. But ultimately we do want to achieve all the things that obviously Dan said.
At the minute, we just want to meet people. We want to get our names as brand names in the community where they can go, where they can advocate at the shows, where they can say, oh, you should speak to these guys at Hot Tag. You should, have you heard of Hot Tag? Like, just getting that exposure is going to be absolutely huge for us in the first 2 or 3 months. And then when our donation drive gets announced to be confirmed, then we'll just kick it into high gear, and we'll be at show after show after show after show across the country, where we're like, okay, what can we do with your show to bring people in, to bring donations in, or people want to donate? And we've got some very, very exciting ideas. I won't go too much into yet, but we've got some very exciting ideas of collaborations with some of the UK's biggest and best promotions.
Wow. I mean, I actually think this will be exceptional. This will be amazing and glorious, man. I mean, maybe contact Darren House and you get yourself on a blimp.
Why not? Why not? Over Clash at the Castle. To be fair, we've got Ross out there, and he's quite loud as it is, so I don't think we'll need anything like that. To be fair.
I'm sure he'll love being referred to as the company blimp.
I'm not going to call him the blimp, but sorry. But,
the next best thing you could do is you get him a paddle boat and go up the River Clyde, and just try and do something with the line or something. At the end of the day, I think, lads, what you're building I truly will say this. I think, lads, what you guys are building here is it's wholesome, and I think it's something that's really needed as well, because you've seen it. I've seen people have seen it with Clash at the Castle here in Scotland. It was reported by the BBC that the ticket prices were just very, very extortionate for some people. I've known wrestlers that have families and wrestlers themselves that couldn't go, obviously, with the prices, and hopefully that was just a one-time off thing. Obviously, it's the hydro capacity and stuff like that. But wrestling should be, at the end of the day, an event for everybody. No matter what your income or wherever you live or anything, you should be able to have that opportunity to see people that you can look up to and admire, that you might need in your life as a figure where times are tough, but your spirits are up because you're seeing these people that you truly admire. And with your guys' foundation, I cannot wait. I truly, heartfully believe this. It will be something very successful this year and the year beyond. I honestly want to applaud you guys for what you guys are building here. Thank you very much for what you're building for the British wrestling scene.
No,
thank you for giving us the time.
Yeah, the time, the recognition. Like this is our first podcast we've done as a team, because it's been one-on-one Zoom calls, and just to have people reach out, like you reached out to us, like we reached out to you. I thought that was so, and you were so, you were accommodating. Yeah, you were so accommodating. You were so excited to get us on board and get us on your show and speak to us, and that's just, it means the world to us, because even though we say you've just got to reach out, 90% of the time when we first started was we are reaching out to people, and just to get a response was huge. Like, we'd get a response and I'd be like, oh, we've got a response. What do we do now? How do we fill it without losing their interest?
We 100%. We have a set of skills from work life and experience.
Always go for the amazing. I've got a certain set of skills. I will find you.
No, we have a set of skills in the sense that we understand business, but I think when it's in practice, it's often a different ball game, and to a certain degree, we're still finding our feet in this adventure, and I think it's really important that we have honesty, because that creates that integrity. Mm-hmm. We're not going to pretend like we know all the answers. That we can answer everything that's asked of us, but we will do our best and endeavour to give the right answers.
It's everything now is a learning curve. So whenever people speak to us, they can ask us new questions. We can answer in different ways. Sometimes we can say, we don't have the answers to that now, but thank you for bringing it up. It's something we can work on. We just wanted to make sure we was out there. We had a solid foundation. We're out there, and then people are actually onboarding that trust onto us. So it's just huge to have these kind of opportunities. We've got more podcasts coming up, and we urge people to reach out and just let us talk, as you can hear, we just keep going on and on about it.
They'll be sick of listening to us. But
yeah, just make sure you don't ask us who killed WCW or whichever is better. We know that now.
That was a loaded question.
Yeah, but we're all different areas.
I think that's what's wonderful about it, because it gives a flavour of each sort of, I don't want to say generation because it makes me sound old,
Yeah, you
but it gives a flavour of each era, because I was around for the Attitude Era, you were around for Ruthless Aggression. There are people who will be around for
PG era,
PG era, etc. And the idea is that this new modern generation of people coming in will then be able to talk about the modern era in the same excitement that I can talk about the Attitude Era, and I can talk about Ruthless Aggression and that PG era, and then eventually it sort of it outgrows us, because they will be the next generation of people wanting to do the right thing for the next generation. And I think that will be the and I hope I'm not talking out of turn because this is Dan's vision, but that will be the defining point of the future of this venture.
100%. I'll back that to the moon. Yeah, I'll back all my team to the moon, to be fair, because the team that we've formed is just next level.
Right. Love to see it, lads, honestly.
Thank
And I
you.
can definitely say
Thanks.
I think in the future there will be a lot of people in the future willing to reach out for that hot tag in the future. Lads, I want to just personally thank you for coming here on the Soul Sessions. But of course, before we wrap up, one final question. As we know, WWE is partnered with the UFC to form TKO, a great conglomerate of companies. And obviously, we might be getting a WrestleMania here in the UK. That would be glorious, except Ticketmaster, because screw Ticketmaster. And with that, obviously, UFC individuals and combat fighters have advertisements on their gear sometimes. So I want to know from yourself, Dan, and yourself, my friend, if you could have the Hot Tag Foundation logo a part of any WWE wrestler's entrance gear for WrestleMania in the UK, which wrestler and why? Dan, you start off, my friend.
Oh God, you'd have to put it on like Drew McIntyre, wouldn't you? Because it's all about representation of the British wrestling scene and the way he came back to it, and like his work with ICW and Progress and stuff was it's a catalyst of what you should do in those situations. Like if you want Drew there, you can have Sheamus. He was huge in that scene. Gunther, Dragunov, like I don't know. To be fair, you can say all these people, but you can't say like, oh, I want Gunther doing it because he's a mega heel. Like, you've got to make sure you get the right people on board. And I think Drew McIntyre really sums up like the whole, being down but building yourself back up again. And that's what we're doing. We're just building ourselves up to not be a champion, but be a huge driving force in other people's lives. And
it's a tagline there. You could have said the face of the community.
Yeah, the face of the community. Just going to open the door. But like, yeah, I think Drew would be huge for us because it's all about that first British-born WWE champion, and it's all about British wrestling. So I think I'll back Drew unless Will Ospreay magically signs for WWE, which I can't see that happening, but I'll go Drew.
Is that you agree with Drew, Nathan, or have you got somebody else in your back pocket? Like surprise.
I think Drew's probably the shout, isn't it, for British wrestling? But what I would say is, you want to be a part of the brand that is the face of the company, and for me, that's Cody, isn't it? And I know he's not a British wrestler, but I think ultimately he didn't really encapsulate it as it had to be a British wrestler. I would say the face of the company is where you want to proceed to be. You want to be that top echelon, and so I think for me it would have to be someone like Cody who stands for the right things, and obviously it's moving away from the British thing, if you know what I mean, in a sense, but it's
taking it well,
the American dream, you know what I mean? And I think that being the ultimate good guy, I think that sort of fits with our ethos. We're just trying to be good guys and girls
and other,
it's really, I think Cody is my choice outside of Drew.
Yeah, but to be fair, Cody's no stranger to including British wrestling into his WrestleMania entrance, because I know he had a lot of British wrestling promotions on his weight belt that I gave to -1 in WrestleMania 39. So like he's done it before, and I don't see why he couldn't do it with us. So fingers crossed. We'll baby steps at the minute though. Baby steps
until you get that crowning moment in the future, lads, and I can't wait to see it. Well, lads, it's been a pleasure to have you here on the Soul Sessions. And as a Scotsman, I'm going to say something very, very heretic right now. Everyone put your pints down, put your drinks down, and listen up. As you know, with every guest, I include a link to the Instagram of the guest. So I will include a link to the Hot Tag Foundation. You can click the Instagram, follow these guys, and see the amazing journey that they're putting it together as a crew. As well, I will also include a link to the Hot Tag Foundation website as well. Click that as well and see the amazing stuff that will be a part of that website. Well, lads, thank you very much for being a part of the Soul Sessions. Viewers, you can now pick up your drinks, net your drinks, put your drinks down, pull your chair away. And thank you as well for tuning in for another episode of the Soul Sessions. Thank you, guys. Remember, stay humble and stay kind.
Sure.